Hey everybody! Koricon Nerd here, and this is my review of Mudhalvan, 1999 film, translates as The Leader. This movie review was requested by Patreon. That person would like to be anonymous, but they had been with me for 3 months. I really appreciate the support, and this is their request. They wanted me to see Mudhalvan. Written and directed by Ste, which you would know from Savaji the Boss, and also Entheron, the robot, which I reviewed both of those, and Robot 2.0 coming out next year, which everybody's excited about. We'll like to see what's going on with Akshay in there, and I don't know quite how I feel about Akshay's appearance. I want to see a trailer, though. I want to see how they fit that all together. But I like Shte's storytelling. So in this movie, in Mudhalvan, along with Savaji the Boss and Entheron, the love story part is very similar in that it's like a cute relationship. It's not like a insta-love, what I call insta-love, which is people that instantly become in love. And they have a more realistic relationship, a more realistic type of love where they mess around with each other, they joke around with each other, they have fun with it. And I really like that aspect. And it's the same thing in Mudhalvan. It's a very natural, joking, kind of cute relationship that feels very natural. It doesn't feel like they just instantly fell in love and there's no chemistry there. They do have chemistry between the two characters. I really enjoyed that. The music was done by A.R. Rahman, very popular guy. He does a lot of the movies that I end up seeing, and for the most part, I love it. I mean, he does really great music and has for decades. And this film is starring Arjun as Paghandi, and Manisha Koirala as Thinmohi, and Raghuvaran as the CM Aranganathan, and Vadivlu as Balvisham. Please let me know which one of those I got wrong. If I got all of them wrong, I'm really sorry. I'm horrible with names. The basic plot for the movie, as it says on IMDb, is very correct. And it says, a man accepts a challenge to act as the chief minister of Tamil Nadu for one day, and one day only, and makes such a success of it that he's soon embroiled in political intrigue. We open the movie with the cameraman and the sound guy, his friend, that every time you tickle him in a specific spot, he yells out, "You swine!" At least that's how it's translated. I don't know if that's actually what he's saying. You should let me know if he says "you swine," but that's what the translation shows. And it was a very funny running gag that was throughout the entire movie. It was very small, but it always added a little bit of levity, even during like maybe a serious moment. And I liked that aspect of that character. Plus, it set the tone in the beginning that this was going to be a more lighthearted film. And then we go right into our first song, which is Shakalaka Baby.
Shakalaka baby, shakalaka baby, love it when it's gonna lay out.
Which was a music video set like a commercial. And what I like about it is that it was an excuse to make it look like a music video without it being a disconnected music video from the film, because you had our major characters filming it, and they had a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on where you see them holding the camera or the crew in the background, but they're still doing the song and dance of this commercial for soda. I think it was Coca-Cola. But it was a nice mix of getting a music video, song and dance, and it integrated into the movie at the same time. I thought it was very smart. It pleases people like me that want the music, the song and dance to be relevant and integrated into the story of the film. And it also pleases the people that like kind of flashy dance numbers that look like music videos. So I thought it was very smart, very well done. So the crew and a reporter go to this small town because the chief minister is going to show up there, and they were filming it for the news. And then this girl comes out of the crowd and basically questions the CM, says, this stuff is wrong, this stuff is wrong. And he liked the fact that she told him the truth. But our cameraman, Pug Hindi, was basically hyper-focused on her, fell in love with her at first sight kind of thing. Later on, ended up going and seeing her in her hometown again, and was behind this scarecrow. It was kind of a creepy-looking scarecrow in this nice field, but it was a great location shot with a large field and awesome landscape behind it. I liked the way that looked, along with the, what was it, like a wheat field or something like that? Had tall grass in there. I really enjoyed that part. Then we go back into the city, and the students attack this bus driver that refuses to drive. They're late for class, they're going for a test, and it kind of snowballs into this huge riot that's going on in the city. Pug Hindi and Balvisham were in their van coming back to the city. They get stuck in the huge traffic jam, and they get out of the van to see what's going on. And when I saw that, my first thought was, why didn't he grab a camera? And then when they get up to the front and see everything that's going on, Pug Hindi tells Balvisham, go get the camera. Now, a real cameraman would never leave the van without a camera. He should have had it with him in the beginning. If there's some kind of ruckus, you always take your camera with you because you want to see if you can catch any news. So I thought that was, I was like, all right, come on, man. You should have grabbed your camera and brought it with you. But during the riot, the student that had started the whole thing ended up getting hurt, and he's bleeding on the ground. And there was this great heroic moment where Pug Hindi puts him over his shoulder and gets up on top of the buses and cars and basically runs him for a kilometer to the hospital. And Balvisham is recording the whole thing, so he becomes kind of this local hero on the news. I liked that heroic moment. It was selfless, it was done well, it was very heroic, but not unrealistically heroic. Like, it makes sense that he could be holding this guy and taking him to the hospital. It wasn't superhuman or anything, but it was still very heroic. And I enjoyed that. I liked that a lot. It showed a lot about his character early on in the film so that we could cling on to his personality throughout and ride that throughout the entire movie, which there's a lot of things that happen with him. So that heroic moment kind of sets up what happens to his character later on in the movie. After his heroic moment, he goes back to the small town to see Then Moi, who he's in love with, and he's recording her secretly. And it's kind of cute, but it's also kind of creepy that he's following her around with a camera and recording her, and even recording her while she's bathing in a lake. Of course, the lake with the waterfall looked great. I really liked the way that looked cinematically. But it was still really creepy that he's like kind of secretly recording her. Now they made it come off as cutesy, and then he shows her the footage, and it's like really nice, beautiful cinematography of him highlighting all of her beauty and stuff. And you could tell she loved it. But still, it's kind of creepy. I think in real life, if some guy was following a girl around with a camcorder, they probably wouldn't find it very romantic. Now this led into our second song, which was Azhagana Rachaisi. I hope I said that right. And it's with a bunch of pottery. So he grabs a pot and knocks 2 eye holes in it and puts it on her head, which I thought was kind of cute. And then he chases her. And she ends up going to where, they manufacture all the pots. So they're surrounded by all the pottery, which had a great aesthetic on camera. I liked the way it looked. And that went into our second song, and it was a music video again. However, and people have heard me talk about this before, I don't like it when movies just drop a music video into a movie without any lead-in whatsoever. But this is why I like S. Shankar. For the most part, what he does is he'll have something in the story that leads us into the music video. So although it is a music video, there is a nice flow lead into it. He did that with Savaji, he did that with Enthron. There's still maybe a couple of songs that I thought were misplaced, but with this one, you give a little bit of the pottery with the joke of the eyes. He's chasing her, and they end up in a big, outdoor pottery manufacturing area. So it led right into the music video. It had a nice flow. It didn't feel disconnected, and I enjoyed that. Plus, it was a pretty good song. I liked the song, but the dancing scarecrows were really creepy. So it was a good song, a relaxing kind of love song with great vocals, but I could have done without those creepy dancing scarecrows. Pug Hindi ends up getting a promotion to reporter after his heroic moments, and he becomes more popular, so QTV wanted to give him the reporter spot. So he ends up doing an interview with the chief minister, the CM, and that's his first interview. I mean, that's a pretty big interview to get as your first interview. But it was a great scene. The entire sequence of the interview back and forth, you could tell, like, he came prepared. He had evidence of all this stuff, and he went in. Like, he was asking him all the hard questions, made the CM really uncomfortable. They filmed the whole thing live, so there was nothing he could do about it. He was kind of trapped in a corner. And instead of trying to answer those questions, because he really didn't have an answer, he basically said, "You don't know how hard this job is. You should try and do it for one day, and I bet you wouldn't be able to handle it." And apparently there was a provision that he's allowed to give temporary powers to anybody for one day. And that's what Pug Hindi agrees to it and becomes the CM for one day. He just goes straight into it, like he doesn't waste any time whatsoever. He's suspending people, he's cleaning up the corruption, he's arresting all the ministers, which was a great scene. He's got the phones, people are calling in and saying what their problems are, and he's like faxing suspensions to people. I liked that sequence. The entire sequence was really engaging, and I was like, oh, I wonder what he's going to do next. I wonder what he's going to do next. And it's kind of cool to see, a guy that just becomes CM for one day, and he does more good in one day than all of the corrupt politicians have been able to do for decades. Then they had an action sequence with these slum rogues that were bothering the women going to the women's college. And they had Pug Hindi basically beat up all of these slum rogues. Now, I've mentioned this before. Sometimes I don't like it when an average person in a movie all of a sudden becomes a great, action hero, or can all of a sudden be the greatest fighter ever. But they set this one up, and they were very smart about it. When earlier in the movie, Pug Hindi was trying to convince the father-in-law to let him marry Thenmoe, he was showing things like that he could sing and dance, and they had a cute little fun song, and then that he's like, I'm not bad looking, and even like, I even know karate, and then his friend gives him the coconut, and he cracks the coconut. Now, it was a very, fun, cute sequence, but in that sequence, they very short just mentioned he knows karate, and he broke a coconut. So you don't need much proof. That's it. That's all you need. He knows karate. Okay, so now the fight sequence makes sense because he actually knows karate. If you didn't mention that in the beginning, then it would feel disconnected. Like, why all of a sudden does he know karate? Well, they touched on it in the beginning of the movie. So I like things like that. When I see movies where the average guy ends up beating up a bunch of people, I want something in near the beginning of the movie that just lets me know, okay, he knows how to fight. Even if it's just a little bit, like it's a mention. Just give me a mention of something. The old chief minister gets his powers back after one day and basically voids everything Pug Hindi had done. However, the effects of what he did was everlasting. Like, you couldn't really change that. Things like increasing the taxes and having that money go to the lower caste. That was all done while he was in power, and he can't really undo that. So there were a lot of things that couldn't be changed, but he basically did void pretty much everything he did. But he proved that in that one day that he would be a good CM. But the old CM, when he took power again, not only voided everything, but then tried to have Pughindi killed. They sent a bunch of guys to go and beat him up, and they tried to light him on fire, and he ended up taking all of his clothes off, running down a bridge while on fire, and then jumps into a big mud pile. So now he's just caked in mud in his underwear. And he was beating up all the bad guys, and I had two thoughts in my head. One was Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, because that is one of the only scenes I really remember besides maybe a Rambo movie where he's covered in mud like that. And then from the rogue's point of view, it must be really embarrassing to get beat up by a naked guy covered in mud. I mean, you can't really go back to your friends and tell them what happened. They'll laugh at you. After that, he goes over to a local vendor to get some water, and he's kind of cleaning himself off, and then some of the people recognized him as the one-day chief minister. And that's what they started calling him, the one-day chief minister. And he kind of he became a local hero, and they cleaned him off with milk. So it was very much of an honor. He goes back to see Thenmohi again, and they have the third song, Kuruku Suruthalva. Oh, I know I slaughtered that one. I'm sorry. But it was also a music video, but again, what Shankar did was it had a nice flow into the music video, so it didn't feel like a random song that was just dropped into the movie. And it showed like a culmination of their love, and it flowed pretty well. I thought the song was okay. It fit the movie. I had no problem with it. I didn't absolutely love it, but I had no problem with it. Now everyone can see his effects of being the CM for one day, and everybody is calling for him to run for office. They want him to be the CM for the next election. So the current CM and some of the other ministers, they send people to go and attack QTV. They destroy the news station. Then the government goes and gets his parents' house with like a 1-foot thing that's been like that for a long time. There's 1 foot onto government land, so they destroyed the entire house. And he doesn't really want to be the CM. He doesn't want to be in politics. He doesn't want the power. But it really does show the people that don't want power really are the ones that should have it. I've heard that quote many, many times, and it's so true for this movie as well. The reluctant leader is usually the best one. So he is convinced to run as the CM, and he wins by a huge landslide. Then we go into the fourth song, which is Mudhalvan, Mudhalvan, and I didn't like this one. So this is what's weird about it is it's the title song. So it's kind of the important song because it's the title of the film, and it's probably the theme of the movie. It's the main song. It's probably the music video they showed before the movie came out. However, the song was not really relevant in the movie. It distracted from the storyline, and it very much was a music video that was just dropped in the movie at that point. Like, there was no reason for it to be in the movie. I think it should have been cut out and used either as the end credit scene for the end credits music video or just as marketing purpose for the movie. But I think the movie would have been better if that music video was not in it. And that's just a personal opinion. I know it's probably not a popular one, but it's my honest opinion. The three major political parties get together and decide to hire an assassin to take out the chief minister. So we now have an assassin and his group going after Pughandi. And this led into them following him and stuff, and they end up going into the fifth song, which is Upu Karuvadu. And it's where Pughandi visits Thenmohi after speaking out, and they have a cute montage of just a day of fun together. And what I really liked about it is it was a good song. It was on location. It was a montage of a fun day. It was very cute, very light. I liked a lot of the scenes that they had together. It did look like they were having a lot of fun. And I liked the whole sequence. I thought it flowed into it really well from him after him sneaking out and meeting her. And then it then flowed right back into the assassination attempt. At the end of the song, the assassin tries to shoot him, goes right over his head, and then a Secret Serviceman or a guard pops up out of the grass and kills the assassin. So all of the guards were there kind of secretly following him to protect him anyway, and that led into a battle sequence between the guards and the assassins, and they had bombs and everything and basically destroyed Thenmohi's parents' farm. But what I liked about the song was we led into the song with the sneaking out and meeting the girl and having a fun day. It flowed very nice into the song montage. It was kind of abrupt end into the assassination attempt. However, it still fit. So it still flowed very nice. It was more of like, whoa, tone just changed. But I was still okay with it. I liked it. Now, here is, I know this movie was made in 1999, but here's a spoiler alert for people that haven't seen it and want to check it out, because this part surprised me. Pughandi is hanging out with his parents at their place out of the city after their house got destroyed, and he's having a nice moment with them like he did in the beginning of the movie. You know, father's massaging his legs, the mom is... I don't know what was the thing that she was putting in his hand. I don't know what that is. Could you let me know what that is? But he's having a nice conversation with them, and he gets a phone call. He goes outside because he's got bad reception, and they said, "There's a bomb at your parents' house," and then the house explodes. And that surprised me. It genuinely took me by surprise. I was like, whoa, whoa. And then his parents are dead. Wow, that was a risky move in the story, but it worked and took me by surprise, and that's hard to do, really, to take me by surprise. So I was impressed. I was impressed that they actually went that way, because that could backfire, you know, if you're just killing off people's parents like that. But it was a very emotional sequence, because they had, in the beginning of the movie and throughout, they had really pushed his relationship with his parents. So when they died, it had an emotional impact. It was not only surprising to the audience, but had an emotional impact. So when he was, you know, screaming and crying in the house, like, you could feel it. You're like, oh my gosh, like, you're there for the ride. I like that they did that. It was risky, but it paid off. And then he finds out there's 4 bombs in the city now, and they had to go and find them. They found 3 of them, but one of them went off. It was a policeman's bike, but it didn't kill anyone, because they had moved all of the... They knew it was in a policeman's bike, so they were moving all the bikes out of the way. And so it wasn't around anybody. There were a couple of cops there, but they got out of the way. So that one didn't hurt anyone. And then Pughandi invites the old chief minister to his office. Makes it sound like he's going to negotiate with him, like the old CM might win. And when he's there, he pulls out a gun, and the old CM's like, you can't kill me, like, you'll lose. And then he turns around and shoots himself and then throws the gun at him so that he catches the gun. And now the guards think that he shot Pogundi. And then he actually tries to shoot Pogundi, and so the guards just kill him right there. That was smart. I liked that. He didn't just straight out kill him, but he kind of did what he has been doing to the people. You know, he tricked him. He got one up on him, and it ended up costing him his life. As the old CM was dying, his last words was a slight smile, and he says, "That was a good interview." I liked that. I thought that was good because it was a good interview. It was very tense, good back and forth kind of mental chess game, two intelligent people battling it off on camera. And so the fact that he accepts that, he's like, man, that was a good interview. When Pogundi had become the chief minister, one of the things he did in the beginning is he set up these complaint boxes in just about every town. They were just set up outside, very anonymous. You could just put in a complaint, and then people would read it, and he would answer it. Now, he said within 24 hours or a week for large problems. That's a little unrealistic, just because of the amount of complaints that would come in. But it was cool for the movie. And at the end, after the old CM gets killed, he gets the girl, the city is running smoothly, and they had an end shot with these complaint boxes, and they were empty. They had the background music going on, and then another shot looking from inside a complaint box, and you see a yellow leaf fall down and come into the complaint box. But after that, they cut to a scene of the future of the city, and it's thriving, and you've got futuristic cars and buildings and everything. And the CGI they used for that wasn't very great. It was very dated for 1999. But I didn't think they needed to do that. I think the perfect ending for that movie would have been from the empty complaint box with the leaf falling in and then just fade to black. Because it shows that he did it. He succeeded. You didn't really need to show what happened in the future. I thought that would be a nice kind of poetic ending to the film. So I would have cut out that CG futuristic part and just faded to black after that empty complaint box, because I liked the way that looked. The aesthetic of it and everything was great. So to wrap up, the growth and story arc of Pogundi was well done. I was especially interested and invested during the interview scene and the corruption cleanup sequence. I was so engaged with those scenes that I forgot to write my notes, and I had to pause the movie so I could catch up. So those two scenes were my favorite. And the love story was cute. It grew naturally. There was no insta-love, which I do enjoy. I did think the title song, the fourth song, Mudhalvan, Mudhalvan, should have been cut out of the movie or made an end credit sequence or just used for marketing purposes. But I thought it distracted from the story and was not needed. It was kind of overblown, and it felt out of place from the other song and dance numbers and just the movie itself in general. Some of the acting was okay, but, you know, it's 1999, so what do you expect? For the movie itself, though, I enjoyed it. I liked the lighthearted moments. I think the tickle spot for you swine was probably one of my favorite little gags. I enjoyed that. Every time it happened, it made me giggle. So I'm going to give this movie a grade of a B+. I liked this movie. I thought it was cute. I told my dad about it. And I'm going to let him borrow the DVDs so that he can watch it. I think it's something he would really enjoy as well. It's right up his alley. But thank you very much for my Patreon that had requested me to review this movie. I enjoyed it. And I have a copy now. Of course, it was really hard to get this. I could only find one copy on Amazon, and it had to be shipped over from India. So it wasn't easy to get, but I did it. I did get it. Just took me a while. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Comment below and let me know your thoughts on this movie. What did you like? What did you not like? What did you agree with me? What did you not agree with me? All that kind of stuff. Let's start a discussion down there. If you're on VidMe, upvote this. Give me a follow and share it around. And if you're on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends. And I will see you on the next video.